Breaking news. If it bleeds, it leads. In your news today.
You are now tuned in to Dirty Laundry Media.
Stand by.
Dirty Laundry Media on the check-in. It's your man online, Bill Money, tapping in with another video. Thanks for tuning into the channel. I wanted to hit you really quickly with a headline that came across. Well, somebody sent this to me in my DMs. They know how to piss your boy off. The headline came out of New York City announcing that Governor Hochul is sending $10 million to assist New York's Asian American community groups. I'll read a little bit of the story here for you. It says New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced $10 million in state funding to help Asian American communities disproportionately affected by the pandemic. State dollars are coming from the 2021-2022 state budget and will go to community groups that provide support services for the Empire State's Asian American communities. The funds will be distributed to the Asian American Federation, a coalition for Asian American children and families, and the Chinese American Planning Council. The governor's office said this is the biggest investment to this community in the state's history. It goes on to read that the AAF will get $6.8 million to distribute to 59 organizations, including, get this, the Karen Society of Buffalo. The cash, I swear to God, they're trolling us. The cash will help these groups with direct services, case management, and mental health support. The New York State Assembly is allocating $1.4 million in legislative aid to another 40 organizations, and the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families will get more than $1 million for several groups. Chinese American Planning Council will give $700,000 to help New York City's Asian American community. Goes on to read, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating effect on so many vulnerable and marginalized communities across New York State. Governor Hochul said the Asian American community was especially hard hit, get this, not only by the virus, but by an increase in hate and violent crimes. Again, the Asian American community was especially hard hit, not only by the virus, but by an increase in hate and violent crimes. With this $10 million in funding, we are sending a strong message that hate has no home here, and we will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with our sisters and brothers in the Asian American community. My administration is laser focused on continuing to help communities that for too long have been forgotten, not only as we recover from this pandemic, but for years to come. And this announcement pretty much coincided with Chinatown's Lunar New Year's parade. So it's a celebration for the Asian American community once again. And as I wanted to point out, if you couldn't tell, her statement included verbiage pretty much to me seeming as if they're doubling down on the executive order issued by Joe Biden on Asian American hate, as she stated. Not only by the virus was the Asian American community hit, not only by the virus, but by an increase in hate and violent crimes. And with this money, we're sending a strong message that hate has no home here. And they're going to continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with their sisters and brothers in the Asian American community, specifically for the Asian American community. So yeah, they're doubling down on national support for the Asian American community, which was realized in executive action by Joe Biden pretty much as soon as he took office. And this is in New York City. As we consider stats as it relates to Black America, all we pretty much heard throughout the pandemic was how hard Black Americans were hit, as we represent just 13% of the country's population, but nearly 30% of total coronavirus cases and 16% of total deaths. We've lost over 60,000 Black lives, and nearly half of Black businesses are permanently closed. And this, as I pivot to The other side of the country over in Oregon, if you guys can remember last year, the Oregon government had set aside funding specifically, COVID-19 funding exclusively for Black residents, Black businesses, but were promptly sued successfully by at least one Hispanic business owner. Let's get over to that headline and juxtapose that against the headline in New York City. To our dismay, it reads, a Hispanic business owner who sued Oregon for blocking her from the state's COVID-19 relief fund exclusively for Black business owners will be getting a payout after all, as state agreed this week to settle the lawsuit over their race-based program. Maria Garcia, who owns Revolution Coffee House in Portland, sued Oregon last year over the Oregon Cares Fund, for which the state legislature dedicated $62 million from the Federal CARES Act towards grants that were only eligible to Black Oregonians. Garcia claims the fund is unconstitutional because it is based on race. The lawsuit is not anti-Black or pro-Latino, but a lesson for our elected officials that the state has to be inclusive in all its decisions and offer equal opportunities to access funds. Garcia wrote in a Facebook post at that time. The Oregonian reported Friday that the state deposited more than $46,000 to the court in December following a preliminary injunction request from Garcia's lawyers, and that the amount was for the maximum amount Garcia would have been eligible for under the program if she were Black. As there were no funds left in this program, there wasn't anything to do but settle this case, Garcia said in a statement to the Oregonian via the Center for Individual Rights, which represented her in the suit. And they state, we will continue to challenge any efforts by Oregon to divide its citizens by race, which hopefully everyone now understands is both unfair and illegal. And this is the second settlement Oregon has made in a case challenging the Oregon Cares Fund. The first was in March when the state settled with the white owner of Great Northern Resources, a timber salvage company whom the state agreed to pay up to $230,000. Edward Bloom, who represented the plaintiff in the case, told Fox News ahead of the settlement, if the state of Oregon wants to target adversely impacted businesses, then fine, Bloom said, but help Hispanic businesses, Asian American businesses, Native American businesses, and white businesses that have been adversely affected, not just Blacks. That's unconstitutional. In a reaction to the first settlement, Governor Kate Brown issued a statement defending Oregon's race-based program. As a state, we have a duty to aid those in need, particularly Oregonians who suffer from systemic racism and disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Brown said the Oregon Cares Fund has been an enormous success and has provided urgent relief to Black Oregonians, Black-led nonprofits, and Black-owned businesses, which are less likely to have access to federal aid. Brown's office did not immediately respond. Yeah, so you guys get the gist of where I'm coming from. Even Kathy Brown, Governor Kate Brown, acknowledged the need for those who suffer from systemic racism to be specifically targeted for relief. These other groups don't have a history of systemic racism impeding their progress, but Black Americans do. Let's get, we got to get it right at some point in time, and we have to stop supporting these politicians who do not stand up for us, but stand up for every other group who clearly do not support them in the numbers that you all do. So yeah, what do you guys think about this $10 million in New York State to assist specifically Asian American community groups, while on the other side of the country in Oregon, when an effort was indeed made to specifically target black residents, black businesses, that situation was successfully challenged in court. They had to split that pot with some Hispanics and whites as well. So yeah, hop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. This is your man Online Bill Money, and I will see you on the other side. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel.